Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Lift and Shift podcast. I'm your host, Giselle Colonzo Douglas, and this is the place where we get to talk to amazing, phenomenal, brilliant, talented, and anointed women who are shifting in their various spheres of influence and career spaces. But the best thing about them is that they are lifting others as they climb. On today's episode, I'm so excited to have with me Ms. Zelda Washington, who is a highly regarded school leader, leadership consultant, leadership coach, professional developer, preacher, national and international keynote speaker. I asked Zelda to be on the podcast with me today for this conversation because I want to talk about leadership, how we define it, how we walk in it, how we apply it to our lives, how when we don't have necessarily the proper skill set to be a leader, how we develop and build in that area. Zelda is one of the most dynamic preachers, speakers, leaders that I know. And one of the things that Zelda that you have always done for me anyway, and I think in whatever space that you're in, is that you challenge people to self-evaluate, to self-assess. And I think that it's important for anyone who seeks to elevate to really have some time in the mirror, to look at where you have strengths and when you have areas to develop so that you can elevate and be the best that you can. So welcome to the Lift and Shift podcast, Zelda.
Wow, thanks so much. I'm humbled. I am completely humbled by the introduction. And I'm
Oh,
thrilled.
true.
I'm really, really excited to be a part of this journey that you're on. I know that the best is yet to come, and so I'm ready. Let's get into it.
Yeah. So tell me first about young Zelda. Tell me where did you grow up?
I am New Orleans raised, baby. New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm a Southern girl. To the core. I am New Orleans raised. I mean, I'm New York made, but
Mm-hmm.
my background is from New Orleans, Louisiana. I am the daughter of Cheryl and Willie Washington, and I'm the second oldest. Although I like to say I'm the oldest, but I'm the second oldest. Three boys and three girls. So I come from a very large family. Including my mother and her siblings. But
Mm-hmm.
New Orleans really raised me and made me who I am. And it's not until I come into my adulthood that I
Mm-hmm.
really can embrace. And that's a big word for me. Like I can embrace my upbringing and I could celebrate who I am authentically. So I'm grateful. I look back over my life
Hmm.
and I realize I'm grateful.
That's so amazing. So when you were growing up in Louisiana, what were your dreams in terms of professional career, just like goals and aspirations? What did
Oh,
you want to be when you grew up?
so I grew up wanting to be a star. Honey, I came to
Ah,
New York thinking
yes.
I was going to be a star. And I say that all the time and people joke, but literally I spent from childhood I was considered gifted. So I would have
Mm.
a teacher that would come to me starting in kindergarten and literally just teach me one-on-one. Sometimes I used to think, am I special like in a different way? Like what's happening here? Because it was always me and one teacher. And then as I continued to develop in my years, I went to a Talent in the Arts, NOCA. For all of you out there that are from New Orleans, Louisiana, I am a recipient of the New Orleans Creative Arts Center, which is called NOCA in New Orleans. And I started at an early age, even there. And my aspirations was to be a thespian. I absolutely love theater. I love it. I love it. I wanted to be a star. I was going to be a star on stage, and then I'd take my career to film and television. But that's as I grew up, I didn't do a lot of the things that I would say a typical teenager does, like the
Okay.
sports, like all my siblings or whatever. I was never into that. I was always in some play. My family was always coming to celebrate or to watch some weird play is what they would say. What was that about? But I got that love and support and I continued to pursue it even as I came to New York for college.
Okay, so that's what brought you to the New York area was your
Yep. So I came when I came to New York. I came to New York for school.
okay.
I went to NYU,
Hmm.
and I was a student at Tisch School of the Arts, and that was my hope and dream. I studied at the Stella Adler Conservatory, which NYU is a you allowed to get your academics basically like a dual major. You do your academics,
Okay.
but you also study at a conservatory program. And so I studied at Stella Adler, and my hope and dream was like to take Broadway by storm. That was my plan. But God
Okay.
had another plan.
I
Okay.
know, I was about to say, because I know at some point there's a pivot, right? There's a transition because you go from this world of the arts and you are then in ministry, you go to seminary, you're ultimately ordained. So I know we will skip a few years in between, but what was that pivot like and about?
Well, I always knew that there was my call story is not necessarily a pastor's call story. Most
Okay.
people be like, "Oh, my pastor called, they saw it in me." Honestly, yeah, at one point in seminary, I was embarrassed to say it, but God called me. Like
Mm,
nobody said, "Oh, you're gonna be a pastor, you're gonna be a preacher, whatever." I just knew. I can tell you the exact day that God told me. And so it's always been in me. I've been born and raised in the church all my life. And there was a desire in me, to be honest with you. There was a desire to not necessarily be a preacher, but to go to seminary. Like I
mhm,
love studying. I love studying religions. I love like the apologetics of Christianity. I love that stuff. But I thought I'd do it after I made my big career, after I was a superstar, all that was like afterwards. And I was on tour overseas with the company Show Service International, and my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I
mm,
came home. As I said, like I am one of six, but I'm the oldest daughter, and my
mhm.
mom and I were like two peas in a pod. So I came home because I wanted to be supportive, and while I was home, the Lord began to really deal with me because while I was away to traveling, it's a lot. All that glitters is not gold. And I'm not trying to sound ungrateful, but when
Right.
you are going from hotel bus to going from hotel back to a bus to hotel to back to a bus from this country to the next country, it's a lot of wear and tear on your body. It's a lot of wear and tear. And especially because I come from a large family, I missed my family. I
Mm.
really, really missed my family. And so when I came home, the Lord was just dealing with me. It was just like, it's time. And my mom had some complications with her breast cancer. I ended up staying home longer than I had anticipated. So I took more leave off from the show.
Mhm.
And it was during this time that the Lord just really began to speak to me. And I was like, well, if this is you, God, basically, I wasn't
Oh, you
giving
were
him
doubting?
what? I started fleecing the Lord, meaning like, is this the time? Because you got to remember, I don't have millions in my bank account yet, and I'm
Mm.
not
Yeah.
stardom yet. So I'm like, well, if this is you, Lord, then this has to happen. It has to be paid for. Then this has to happen. I have to get in and all that. And literally, I got into seminary within like a week. I got the acceptance letter. I got
Oh,
the
wow.
money for school, like all of it. It was all, so I had nowhere to run, nowhere to
Mm.
run, nowhere to hide, because God had did it all. So that's how I really shifted and started to like lock in into the like the call that God had on my life then.
So this time with your mom, I know a lot of people have moments in their lives that are just like transformative, right? And kind of shift and shape kind of the next part. Was this a moment like that for you, or did you have another moment where you were like, as you're accepting the call and you are kind of shifting into this pastoral mode, where something happens that kind of lights up, like the light bulb goes off, like this is where I'm supposed to go.
Oh, there's many of them. I mean, yes, the light, that's one of those moments where the light bulbs goes off and I'm like, aha, I'm supposed to be in this space. Now, mind you, I'm also a planner. And
Mm,
I'm a goal setter. So, like, yes, I'm supposed to be in this place, but God, what am I supposed to do with this? Because at the
mm,
same time, I'm sitting in a seminary class, like basically full of men, and they have
mm.
churches. They're pastors already. I don't want to pastor no church. Like, I didn't want to be no pastor, but God has called me into this place. And so there's a lot of tugging back and forth with God. Like, what am I supposed to do next with this? Like, where am I supposed to go? And I'm in full-time ministry, and then God opens the door. Another aha moment where I was working as a counselor then in the New York district schools. And long story short, nobody but God opened the door for me to go to this charter school that I worked at. I was a founding dean of students there. I mean, what I did there is who I am. Like, that
Mm.
was an aha moment. When I looked at the job description, I sent it to my best friend. She looked at the job description. She's like, Z, boom, that's you. That's you. I'm like, oh my God. This is what I do naturally. Like, this is it. She was like, Z, that's all you. That's all you. And that aha moment, like this place and what they ascribe for children and what they ascribe for the teachers that they partner with was like another aha moment. Like, yes, I'm in seminary. I don't know what
Mhm.
is going to happen with this degree. Yes, I still want to be a superstar,
Right.
and a superstar, not so that people could know me, but I just wanted to be excellent at my
Mm,
craft. Like,
mm.
that's my core value that I live by. Like, excellence is just it. Whatever I do, I want to do it excellently, right? And so I'm here, and I'm like, I just, I've had over $100,000 education from NYU. I'm working in a school and I'm going to seminary. Like, what is this all gonna, but all things work together. All so
Amen.
anyway, it was another aha moment because while it didn't look like it was coming together on paper, in my spirit, I was so at peace. Like, I was in the place. And that's how, I've learned out over the years. That's how you know it's a God called or it aligns with the will of the Lord. Is
Hmm.
if it gives you peace
Mm.
and it aligns with the word of the Lord over your life. It gives you peace. I'm not in a pulpit, but I'm in a school where I got over 500 something kids that are listening to me impart something in them to be better, to be somebody in life. So it all connected, but that was such an aha moment that you're not in control.
Mm.
Let me do this for you. Just let me take the wheel and guide you. And I'm all the better for it, to be honest with you. Like,
So
it
I'm
made
curious, do you remember what it was about that job description that said Zelda? Like, what were those attributes or characteristics about the job that you were like, this is me?
Yep. It said that the individual was passionate, believed in building a strong school culture, believed in children, believed that all children could learn, was organized, was driven. All of that was just like, oh, that's breathing me. Like to have fun, is creative. I'm like, that's me, all of this stuff. But it was the passion, the drive, the belief in
Hmm.
children, and the ability to do it creatively. Because, like, when you look at the job description, you're starting. It was a starting school from a network of school, but you're going to be the founding dean of culture, the dean of students that literally builds the culture of the school. And so I had the palette to paint whatever picture that I dreamt of for those students, and we did some great stuff. We really did. Not just my whole
Well,
team.
that's not the only place that you've created great things for youth. Just a little disclaimer, Zelda and I used to work together in youth ministry back in the day. And
Yes.
listen, we did some amazing things with the young people. So
Yes.
it goes without saying that you definitely are someone who creates and, leaves a blueprint for greatness for young people. So I'm
Mm,
not surprised at all.
thank you.
So tell me how you then transitioned into coaching and leadership development.
Oh, this is so funny how I just had it was recently, I just had this revelation. And I've been speaking it over my life that I took a back step and saw that my steps, they are ordered by God. Like, we say that, but like, I'm the recipient that my steps are
Uh-huh.
really, really ordered by God.
Amen.
Like, my dean position was a setup for my principalship. I didn't have a degree in education,
Oh,
right?
wow.
I loved education. I'd been in education, but I didn't have the degree in education. And when I was a dean, I used to sit in on the instructional meetings just because I thought, like, if I was going to build this culture of academics, this culture of learning where it was fun and vibrant, I needed to know what was going on in the classrooms. So when I do
Hmm.
my morning motivation, if I knew that they were practicing doubles or tens or whatever, I could ask a quick fun question and get the kids all excited about it. Little did I know, like, God was setting me up. Setting all those meetings I sat in was actually the stepping stones to get me to a principal position. So I left my school and I went to the network office because I got hired as the dean of culture for all 15 of our schools.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so that was a huge leadership position because, you know, other deans would come and watch me and train with me and learn from
Mhm.
me how I did it at our school. And so my CEO at the time, Stephen Wilson, he saw something in me. He doesn't even know, like, oh, my heart goes out to him. Like, he's had a rough journey the last few years, but he's so instrumental in helping me to be the woman that I am today in leadership, because he saw something in me. I remember there was a time when I wanted to quit at the work because I didn't have the educational degree. And he said, and I'm the CEO and I don't have one either.
Oh,
And
wow.
he ran our, our schools
Mhm.
well. He was like, for you to go back to do, he called me and he said, for you to go back to school to do what you're already doing is a waste of time. You're already doing what you would actually go and do in some collegiate atmosphere. He's like, you have it. It's just a gift. It's just a gift. And so anyway, I went into the role at the network office as the cultural leader. And what I lead from a place of lack, to be honest
Mm.
with you. I lead in a way that exposes others to the things that I did not have.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's almost as if God has allowed me to be groomed by him so that I can pour into others who did not have or who do not have. I did not have that mentor that would take me under their wing and like
Mm-hmm.
pour in. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have that, but I'm so burdened for it because I mean, so I believe that the secular and that there is no secular and, the spiritual, they all are God ordained moments. And so when I think about that, it's like Habakkuk in the Bible where he's complaining, he has a burden in chapter 1, and then God gives him the solution in chapter 2. And so my burden has always been like, God, who's supposed to mentor me? Like, nobody's showing me and everybody's
Mm.
pulling from me and asking me, but I don't know. And God said to me, I am your mentor. So that
Wow.
nobody could get the glory for what's happening in your. I'm dead. I'm not even joking. I'm not trying to be deep. But God told me so that no man can get the glory. You will
Wow.
know that it's just me who did it. And so when I lead, even when I went into the leadership coach as the dean of culture, I was able to pour into people in a way that I would have wished someone would have poured into me.
Mm.
And so
Okay.
I do that by making sure that I not only explicitly state the expectations, but I model them. And then once I model the expectations, I'm willing to come alongside you and watch you do it and be that voice in your ear. Go left, go right, step back. Shh, don't say nothing here. Don't respond or whatever. And I wish that I'd had that, but because I didn't, it's made me a better leader, a better leadership coach. So that's how I got into leadership coaching. And I left that position. They'd asked me to go and cover a middle school. God bless all the middle school leaders out there, all the middle school
It's
parents
a
out there.
special age.
There's a
Takes a special hand, special hearts.
special anointing
Yes,
for
indeed.
every teacher, every staff member, every parent. My God, that has whoo,
I have
developmentally.
one now. I have that age in my house, so yeah, I
You
can
should
only
get some oil and just keep throwing it at the door. Because there's nothing you can say that is
imagine.
right. They always got a back, and they was never doing anything. But I didn't say it, but I didn't do it, but I
Why are you
whew,
speaking about my lifestyle?
like just know
I'm
that
not
it
alone.
won't always be like this. Just know
Okay.
it won't always be like this. But we had a very struggling middle school, and they asked me just to step in to take over. So that was my first like opportunity at principalship, and I literally cried every day.
Oh,
Like after like the second, I'm not talking about crying like, oh, what was me. I would
yeah.
sit in my car and I would cry because I didn't want to go in there. And when I
Oh,
wasn't there,
wow.
they'd be blowing up my phone. The kids used to call me Josita Clark because like after Joe Clark,
Your
because
clock,
I
yeah.
literally have to walk the hallways being a crazy woman. Because you never show them that you're scared, but it was exhausting. It was exhausting, but what a learning experience. It was that opened the door for me to accept an opportunity to go back to my original school and be the
Hmm.
principal. And I remember telling the chief of schools at the time, like, one, I'm not qualified. Like this is I don't have a degree in like education to be leading a school. Like this is you cannot be asking me like I. He was like, but you're already doing it. What are you talking
Mm.
about? And that night I was watching. I went home and I had to give them an answer on Monday. I was watching, Oprah was doing an interview, God honest truth, with someone. And the only part my mental psyche heard was she said to them, sometimes you have to do it scared. That's where I got that from. And I
Yeah.
literally went back and I said, yes. And I said, I just want to tell you that I'm doing this scared. I heard Oprah and I tell him what I heard. He goes, oh my God, I'm going to take that for me because Zelda Washington, I feel the same way. I'm doing it scared too. And I want to say, like, honestly, there's some teachers, because I'm no longer at the school now and I left.
Hmm.
That was a whole nother story, but in good standing. I like in incredible standing. I left because it was time.
Right.
It was time. But the teachers that have been groomed under me, I say to them, do not settle and do not
Mm.
sell yourself short because you do not have paperwork behind you. To do the work that we have been doing at the bar for which we have been doing it, you are ready. You are ready. And I think sometimes, particularly as Black women,
Mhm.
we count ourselves out before we even get to the interview. Before we even apply, we count
Right.
ourselves out. And then you do the job, you get there, you take a lesser role and realize, hold up.
I do
Is that
this.
like I'm doing more than the supervisors is doing?
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
what is
wow.
but and I know more, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm always
So let me
trying
ask
to
you, because you had two moments you talked about already where you kind of doubted, should I do this because I don't have the credentials or the paperwork? In retrospect, is it that self-doubt that you say a lot of women and Black women have? Like, how do you explain it or understand those moments to have been for you?
I lack of exposure.
Hmm.
Um I would definitely say because we have not been in certain circles and exposed, we count ourselves out.
Wow.
And this is not just in education. We count ourselves out, and it's such a danger that hold us back. I know what's her name, Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw. She talks about she coined the intersectionality frame about, here you are as a Black woman and you
Mm-hmm.
bring that to the experience, and then
Mm-hmm.
you bring the fact that, like, depending on where, for me, I bring my Blackness, I bring my religion, my
Mm-hmm.
spirituality to
Mm-hmm.
this intersectionality. I bring the fact that I'm a woman. I'm not just Black, but I'm a woman on top of, and we bring all of that into our situations, and it sometimes holds us back because it's not well looked at. And I
Mm.
think we doubt our abilities. Well, now we're coming up. This is
What
our
I mean,
season. Yes.
we need a theme song right here.
Yes.
A praise break.
Hey, yes. We are
Um,
coming up.
Zella, we've been talking about leadership, you being a leader, you being in leadership roles, but let's define the word because I think maybe people have a different understanding or impression of what being a leader is. How do you define leadership?
So I'll give my brief definition. One who motivates,
Hmm.
equips, and inspires the individual to get to goal,
Mm.
whatever that goal is. But the leader is that motivator, that coach that equips and inspires the student or the individual to reach the goal.
Wow. Okay, because I know for some people, based on title, whatever title they have in the organization, deem themselves leader. You're a supervisor, you have people under you, so I'm a leader. You are given, title, I'm a leader. However, it comes up to you that you feel like you're a leader. And so those people, I think oftentimes don't think that they need training or development, but that's exactly what you do. You train leaders to be better leaders. So what can we say to someone that, in terms of having a title does not a leadership make you?
Well, and that's the very thing, right? A leader doesn't need the title to actually do the work of leading. The
Mm-hmm.
leader was the leader was doing the work before they even got the title. And that's, if you needed that title to actually do the work, then you're not a leader. You're
Mm.
not ready to step into that position. So I would say it's being humble enough to know that I am willing to do this work with or without that title, because that's what I do. Leaders lead.
Mm-hmm.
They're problem solvers. Like when I think about it, every time a leader comes to me and even wants to complain or, oh, I don't know, you're a leader. Figure it out. We
Right,
problem solve. That's what we
right.
do. There would be no need for a leader if there were no problems. But because
Mm.
there are problems, there's a need for leaders. And if you can't solve the problems, then perhaps you got to take
Ooh,
that.
ooh, ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me this then. Do you think that being a leader, because you said you have this problem solving skill set that you need. So what are some other traits? Part A, what are some other traits that a leader needs to possess? And part B, is a leadership born or can a leader be made?
Ooh, that's a good one. I did one of my papers for seminary. Are leaders made or leaders born? But I was talking specifically about king. Um, Both. I think it's both, right? I think about the seed. I've given this analogy before in another life, but I think about an apple seed. An apple
Mm-hmm,
seed will always be an apple seed, whether you
mm-hmm,
put it in mud, whether you put it in water, whether it flush it down the toilet, it's still going to be an apple seed. But apple seed will never grow into an apple tree
mm-hmm.
unless the apple seed is nurtured and groomed for the thing that it will actually be. So I think it goes hand in hand. It's actually both.
Mm.
You're born to lead. The question is now, will you be groomed? Will you allow yourself to go through the process to get to the place where you're actually supposed to be in order to effectively lead?
So you talked about how when you were in seminary, you kind of looked around and there were a lot of men. And I don't know what it was in that educational sphere that you were in, if you were also one of a few women. But for a lot of us, when we get to a certain level of success, you're one of a handful. But I've also heard that, for some organizations, they have an apprehension about bringing women in as leaders. We're viewed as emotional. We're viewed as, we're going to, so we're going to lead with our feelings. We don't get along with other women, and that just our natural tendencies as women are viewed as deficiencies. What are your thoughts about women as leaders and how we can kind of embrace who we are, femininity, and everything that comes with that to be able to be effective leaders?
That's so good. Everything you just said is just so yummy. It's so true. I have taken the position that I'm unbothered. This
Okay.
term, I'm unbothered. I'm unbothered because my work will precede me. My work will speak for itself while I'm in that space. And I think time's up. There's been an expiration date, particularly for Black women having to overcompensate or to become small in
Mm,
places so that our brothers or even other men can become large. We can be successful together, but no longer am I going to be silenced so that this person can speak up. You will speak up and I can speak up too. And
mm,
so I think there's so much truth, particularly like I'm so honored that some of the men that I went to seminary with, and I mean, they're giants. I think about them now because they always tell me, like, it's interesting how people perceive you, but they're like, oh, you were always such a powerhouse. You're such a power. I felt like I had to advocate for the women in the room. Because even like looking at scripture, we look at it from such a male patriarchal
mm,
lens, right? That we
mm,
don't even consider number one, the writers, consider the time, and consider the woman's perspective about whatever the text is we're studying. But I think some of the things that you just shared about women being silenced and being um, homogenized as this group of people when we are emotional, as these emotional beings that can't be in a place of leadership because of
mhm,
that. I said, I'm unbothered. Watch me.
mm.
Watch. And I'm doing, I'm not out of arrogance, even confidence, but I'm doing it. And there are people that are coming to
Wow.
me to ask, like, how can I do this better? Or how can I move my organization from this point A to point B? So I think we need to pull up that posture of just being unbothered.
Unbothered.
Yes.
Unbothered. Okay, so you talk about the lens that some people kind of approach their organizations, corporations with, whatever, but you describe yourself as leading with a racial justice lens. So tell me about that.
Right. So everything, so I always say I'm in the education field, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not necessarily going to see Zelda Washington out there with her picket signs and marching on the street because my response and my response and my solution to racial justice is in the classroom. Is
Okay.
making sure that our students are educated. So when I say I lead with this racial justice lens as well, I make sure that the people that I'm working with understand the context for which we are working in, whatever it is. So whether it's a school or whether it's a company that's going to be hired by the school, you need to understand the context that we are going into. And not only that, you need to not come as the person with all the answers, but how can we learn from the community for which we are going to serve? Because while they hired you, they're not going to keep you there for the rest of, their existence. They're looking for strategies and tools to become better. And as we are coaching and leading leaders of that organization, it's important for us to be able to speak to the injustices that they may experience as a company or as a culture,
Hmm.
depending on what the organization is.
So obviously, after 2020, the social justice movement that happened, and it continues. Obviously, we have this new generation who is just, I think, much more aware of their placement, kind of in the world from a racial standpoint. Because I know when
Mm-hmm.
I came into the legal field, the criminal defense attorney, I would often go to court, especially federal court, and I would be the only woman. I would definitely be the only black person, right? And so sometimes it would just be a little bit um, discouraging because you're like, my goodness, like it's 13% of black people in America. Like, where are we? So how would you encourage this new generation of leaders as they're going into spaces that they're supposed to be doing better than we did? So they're breaking barriers, going into new ground. How to navigate, being one of a few.
There's a number of things, but I'm gonna use this gonna be a plug for you in this moment. It
Oh,
really is about lifting and
mm,
shifting. Even when you go into the space, I'm going as in the space with the expert knowledge or in this field, and I make sure there's one person in that organization that I touch in a real way that gives them this belief, and not just a belief, but like really taps into something that I've already discerned or sensed while I was there, that I would really push them to push further on and understanding and unleashing it in themselves. It's really about us. Your podcast, I'm not just saying it's a plug, but really like sit, like live and shift. Come on, live
oh, you're
and
about to write a song for me.
shift.
I need a theme song.
Yes. So seriously though, it's about our intentionality too. When I
Mm,
think about like leading from a racial lens, always asking yourself, who is not at the table, right?
mm,
Who's not here? And that is the group that we want to reach out to and make sure that they have access to be at the table, and not just be at the table, but have a voice at the table, a real
yeah.
voice. And so it's about when we go into those spaces, making sure that we leave not just an imprint, but a card, a phone number. Call me. I'm not even I could be in a grocery store, and if my aunt was watching it, she'll tell you like seeing young people that I see with great potential that I just stop and ask, what do you do? Is your only job or whatever? Because there's something about them.
Mm,
I literally will say, is this your only job? And they're like, no, I want to do this. Really? So what are you doing to get there? Let me just give you my card. And hopefully, if they're serious, because I wouldn't do that to anybody, but if I sense something on them, if they're serious, they do reach out. And then I
okay.
try to put them in the right places, because a lot of minorities or underserved populations, particularly young people, just need access.
Mm,
We just need access. I remember like, and you were a part of it, like one of the reasons why we did career day at my school, because, and mind you, I was the principal of a school that it was 60%, Latinx population. But one of my, Latin students said he was in trouble, of course. And he saw Miss Washington in the office. And he already knows when I'm coming, it's a problem. So I get in the office or whatever, because I'm tired of them telling me he's getting referred. And he's like this small. Like, what is happening? What are you going to do with your life? Don't you want to be somebody? Don't you want to be somebody? Poor kid is looking at me like, yes. So what are you going to be? And I got maybe 3 adults. So what are you going to be? He was like, I said, no, what are you going to be? I'll wait. A Chinese delivery guy. What?
oh,
So we already on the wrong street because you ain't Chinese. That's the first problem. You, that
Wow.
dead honest, right? I'm being honest. So here's an elementary student. He's in 4th grade, and he's telling me he wants to be a Chinese. I said, I'm done. I quit. All this work I'm doing for you to be a delivery guy, bro. This is not how it's going down. You will not
Wow.
be. I'm not trying to lock who's delivery drivers now, but if you in
Right,
this
right,
school,
right.
you will
Yeah.
not be a delivery driver. So all that to say is that sometimes, not some, a lot of times in my experience, and now that I work with high school populations as well, a lot, our students, our children, young people, even in college, just for me, I didn't have the access. I God is the only way I can say why I made it out. I made it out.
Yeah.
God, God. But I think it's about for those of us who have crossed over to some degree, being able to give and show access to those that are coming behind us or those that are even alongside of us.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm. Yeah, no, one of the reasons why I even started this podcast was partly some of what you're talking about. Hearing young people having like maybe one or three or four as career options and goals, wanting to be an athlete, wanting to become a star, right? But from I want to be known, this social media influencer thing. And it's like the world is your oyster. You can have so many options, but it was not being exposed to people who are in that space, who are doing the work. So I really thought about, who do I know and who could I get to know so that these young people or these emerging leaders can see themselves in these people and see the possibility of all that they can become. So what you're saying is dead on in terms of giving our young people access so that they can dream bigger. Chinese delivery guy is it's interesting.
yes, yes.
I'll never forget that one.
Yes, and so
So,
we're grateful for people like you who would take the time to come into the school and speak life. Like you just don't know. I always say to those that come and give of themselves, only eternity will be able to tell the impact you made on some child's life. Even this podcast, like you have no idea how, not just for children, but you have no idea what it will do for so many that are just struggling just to get to the next, just tell me where to go, just tell
mm,
me what to do. Like they
mhm,
just need, and because like I think about, and I'm going on a tangent, but I think this is really important, particularly for people of color. On a simple interview, they have the will, they even have some skill, but they're
mhm,
not finessed enough, that they
mm,
don't have the language, right? I think about those that interview for teacher positions, and if you come in with some of the language that some of us come in with, I'm like, so I literally will coach a person. I in an interview, I will do, because if you can implement the feedback that I'm giving you, then I can work with you. And
okay.
I can work with you. And I'll be honest, I'll say to them, I said, look, I'm taking a chance on you. Right? I literally, there are people now, and I tell you, my God, it is a testament to like just divine appointments, that teachers who are killing it in the game right now, because God allowed me as a leader to see the potential in them, take a chance on them, and then they do the work. And that's
Mhm,
another thing for us. Like for anybody, I don't know, for everybody that's listening, we also need to do the work. We need to do this. It's one thing for me to tell you how to get to it, but you got to do the work to make sure that you get to where it's not going to just come to you. I think sometimes people think that, oh, we just made it and you just get, like, honey,
mhm,
you have no
mhm.
idea. You have no idea. You don't.
Wow. Well, you're gonna take away one of my questions, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. No, because I wanted to say a couple of things. One is that as I was starting the podcast and I talked to you, you did say to me, and I said, "This is not my regular space. It's putting me outside of my comfort zone and my box." And you did say to me, "Do it scared." And so I've remembered that and say, so I get the nerves and I get everything else, but I'm like, there's a bigger purpose to this. And so, kind of hone all of that in. But it takes me to the fact that you now have your own company where you are focusing on training other leaders. So tell me about ZMW Leads,
Yes. And
how that came
so,
about and what it is that you're doing.
I have a passion. Is like I said, that's my burden,
Mm-hmm.
to lead leaders, and to groom leaders. And I've always wanted to do it. I was doing it at my, when I was in principalship, and I was doing it for free, a lot of it for free. That, my ex-employees would constantly just keep sending me people. So I'm the principal and I'm the coach, but I'm not gonna get into all that. But like, you getting double, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And honestly, I love doing it because I felt comfortable in that skin, and I was good at it. And I say I was good at it because I could see the impacts of the work that me and my coaches had done together, the growth that they have made. And another great testament, at the time, I'm not gonna lie, I was completely frustrated. I work with wonderful leaders in my school, and every year my leaders would leave and go be leaders or lead schools or
Ah,
be in the network office. So I would feel like every year was a new year, like starting again, because my leaders would go. But it was also a testament to that they were really groomed, right?
right,
And ready for
right.
and they're all successful, like just doing it out, just killing it out there. So having said that, um I was already doing it. I walked away from my job because it was time.
Mm.
I had been released from this job, and spiritually God had released me like months before. But as I said, I'm a planner, I'm a creature of comfort.
You
And
like what you like.
yes, and no more. Honestly, and serious, honestly, I loved my families. I
Mm.
love the families that I had established relationships with, work with. I just love them. That it was just hard to part ways, but almost as if God had to just push me and just keep nudging me. Anyway, so I left, and I didn't have a job. I didn't have employment, and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I didn't want to go into like a full-time charter school leading because we work hard, long hours. Nevertheless, my best friend was like, you love leading leaders, why don't you just do that? Like, I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about being a consultant. I just threw it out there. I'm like, I'm thinking about being a consultant. She was like, let's do it. I was like, no, I'm thinking about it. She's like, let's do it. No, I said I'm just thinking about it. And like, literally, like,
Do
that's how
it.
she a gnat. And that's how it really began. And I was like, no, I'm really, and then we do this thing at the end of the year. We do our yearly reflections where we come up with a word. What's your word for the year? What do you feel like, God has said, what's your word for the year? And we reflect on the year past and perhaps one thing we want. And my word for the year that kept coming to me was leap.
Mm.
So that was last year, just leap. So I said, I'm just gonna embrace this, and I'm gonna leap.
There
I'm
you
just
go.
gonna leap. And when I tell you the way that God has orchestrated it, it is crazy. A woman that I started out with, because I now partner with their schools, Julie Jackson, and she is a guru beast of her. She is the Obama of charter schools in New
Okay.
York City, okay, in New Jersey and New York, and another long story short, the president of my uh old network was like, oh, you should meet this person, you should meet this person. I'm like, I don't really want a job. I'm good. I would be consulting. uh End up, I met with her, and she's like, listen, people are speaking your names in rooms. I just want you to,
Mm.
rooms that you have not entered. It's my first time meeting you. And she's all full of joy, and I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
oh my God, like this woman don't even know, like I'm shaking in my boots that I'm speaking. Yes. And I'm like, yes. Oh, great. It was that crazy. It was that, yo, I got up after the call. I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. Like, but afterward, it was so funny because my best friend and I were talking about one thing. She said, are you ready for the call with Julie? This is important. So, are you ready
Mhm.
for the call? I was like, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. She was like, yeah, but like, how are you ready? I was like, no, I'm just going to, talk about the things. She's like, well, what do you want to do? I said, I would like to be a consultant. I'm just going to tell her
Mhm.
I would like to be a consultant for her company. She was like, yeah, but like, what do you want to do? And I was like, what do I want? And that kept ringing. What do I want? I need to know. We need to know as a people, what do you want?
Mm.
What do you want? Because it's very hard to get something that you don't have clarity about. So, what is it that you actually want? And I had to just sit with that. Man, I wrote out what I wanted. And ain't it just like God?
Ooh.
We're talking in this conversation. Julie says to me, "What do you
What
want?"
do you want?
She's like, "What do
Love
you want? What do you want?" I'm like, "Oh my God." Like, cause I'm freaking out. Cause I'm like, "Hey, I got that. I know what I want. Say it, dummy. Say it, say it." So what I'd like to do is I'd like to own my own consulting firm where I develop leaders, motivate and equip them, inspire them to be excellent at their crafts, whatever they may do. I'd also like to go into organizations and I'm able, like, I'm just going, whoo, baby. It was a setup. It was a setup for the real moment. And she was like, "Well, we don't, hire consultants, but it has been great knowing you and all this stuff." And I'm like, "Great." She was like, "But we'd love to have you on the team. Are you interested?" I was like, "No, I'm not interested. Da, da, da. But I'd love, if you ever have a need for a consultant, I'm happy to
Mm-hmm.
join or whatever."
Mm-hmm.
So the call is, that was that. I called, "I mean, it was Julie. This is what she said. She did ask the question." I told her, but dang, they don't hire consultants, because they are big, like, schools. We use their books to train,
Oh
right? And
wow.
other schools, this organization, we use
Mm-hmm.
their material. Like, they're the gurus at
Mm-hmm.
leadership training. The next day, the next day, at about 11 o'clock, she calls me and tells me, "Hey, I don't know what it is about you, but we're gonna try this thing. We're just gonna do it. Like, let's just do." They told me they don't hire consultants.
Wow.
And it has been, so I've been on this journey with her team or whatever, to this day. To this day. And I mean, I went, one, not even realizing the gift and all that I learned. Like, they think I'm a star. Shoot, I think I'm learning so much from them, but they feel like, "Oh my God, that is it." I'm like, "They're great. Like, you guys are phenomenal." So it's great that I'm able to pour out, but I also feel like I'm receiving in this space. And so my firm right now, and I'm believing that it will build out, because so many people keep saying, "When you're hiring, I'm coming." And they're great people that I really want to be on my team. I'm just like, "I don't have enough for you to quit. Don't quit your job because I can't pay your
Right.
bill."
Not
Like,
yet.
we don't have insurance for you yet. So keep your job. But so I started this firm to go into places, particularly underserved populations in education, to really service them with high quality coaching, like leadership coaching. Um, and not just like your principal, for all the other people that are under, because the principal can only do so much. So I
Mm-hmm.
also understand structures of schools and organizations. And um and that's what we do. We literally go into schools and build out plans, um to support the need that's in that particular school, or even if it's an organization, because I got a contract with a hospital, which was
Okay.
like just crazy. But it's all about leadership and leader and change management. Change management is
Mm-hmm.
huge when a leader does not have the skills to
Right.
navigate the changes. You can't just come with this bright idea and change tomorrow. You're going to lose all your people.
Right.
So how are we going to navigate this change that's happening? And so that's what we do. You can go to zmwleads.com, and I tell people that because I have so many friends in leadership, and they'll call for, like, "Oh, what you think about this?" And I love sharing creative ideas. I'm like, "Hold up, you got to go to my website and book me." Like, hold up, I'm literally writing this thing out. You got
Right.
to go book me.
Go
Come
to the
on.
website. All right,
Yes.
awesome. So time, of course, is against us, and I could talk to you all day, but I want to ask you this last question. How would you advise a person who feels called to more, provoked to do more? They feel like there is leadership potential within them, but they're struggling on how to use your words, to unleash it and walk in it.
Hmm. My response would be, like, you have to find a mentor. And
Hmm.
when I say a mentor, I don't mean somebody that you're going to walk every day with. Your mentor could be in writing, they could be in a book. What style of leadership attracts you, or that thing that person has that you're attracted to? Study them, learn them, try to get into spaces or observe the spaces that they're in. You could learn so much just by observing. And I could say for me, a lot of stuff that I have learned has been just the opportunity to be in the room. And there were
Mm,
times, let me be clear, where I was not invited to the room, but I
mm,
pushed my way in and I took a seat. I didn't need to sit up front. I just need to be in the room. I just need to hear and I just need to see how you do it. That's enough. And for me, I felt like God will do the rest, but I had to be in that space. So I would tell you to, if you don't have, oh, I don't know these people,
mm-hmm.
study the person, study them. Some of my greatest mentors, I never met them a day in my life. I ain't
Wow.
never met Renita Weems a day in my life, but she is a Black theologian and womanist. And you trust me, Zelda's library, you would think that me and Renita are best friends, but I watch her and I listen to her. The Claudette Copelands, because I'm a leader, but I'm also a pastor and a preacher. And so there are not a lot of women leading in the
Yeah.
spaces. And so one of the things that I do is that I have to get mentored from the text that they write
Mm,
and from perhaps the sermons that they preach if I catch them
mm-hmm.
online.
Mm-hmm. Wow, Zelda. I mean, this has been phenomenal as expected. I'm just so grateful that you took the time to be with us on the Lift and Shift podcast. I think that you are indeed a star. So maybe not Broadway or what little Zelda thought it would be, but you're definitely a star. You are a
Wow.
powerhouse. I'm not surprised that your name would be spoken in rooms that you have yet to enter, but I know you're going to make your way into
Wow.
those spaces. You are an inspiration to so many, including myself, and I just cannot wait to see all that God has to all the rest that He's going to do in your life and in the various spaces that you're going to walk into. Continue to lift others, though, as you climb. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. And I speak blessings over this journey that you're on. I speak blessings. I speak open doors. I speak resources over your life as you continue to endeavor in this new area. And I believe it's not just a Giselle call. And you'll see in due season, the due season, at due time, it's a God call for
Ooh,
you to be in this space. And so I pray that you have continuing blessings from your, not just for you and your family. Thank you so much.
thank you. Thank